Hey guys, I wanted to pop on here and do a quick live for you based on the feedback of the question that was asked around the Akashic Records and just getting an idea of where you're at in your understanding so that I know where to jump off from. So we're gonna back up this train and start from the beginning and talk a little bit about what is the Akashic Records? What's the Akashic Realm? What is all of this Akash whatever? Right? So let's start with that. I want to share with you a little story about my first introduction to the Akashic Records and the Akashic Realm and all things Akash related. So it was back in the early 2000s, and all of the teachers at that time were always teaching it as like this library in the sky, right? It was like a broken record. When people were talking about the Akashic Realm, they were talking about the Akashic Records, and you were traveling to this library in the sky to choose your Akashic Record book, to read and understand information about your life and all of this, right? So in that time, I felt like I was not connecting. It just was not resonating with me. I was not seeing a library in the sky. Like, there was no library there. Like, it just was very disconnected to me and didn't really resonate. But at the same time, it's definitely really connected and plugged in. I just didn't know the terminology. So there was a difference in, I think, the terminology that was being used. So even back then, it made me feel as though I wasn't connecting, wasn't doing it right, because I wasn't seeing this huge library of books in the sky. And it seemed like that's what everyone else was seeing. And if I'm not seeing that, it must not be connecting. I must not be there. So if you've had that experience yourself, because there's still a lot of practitioners that approach it from that way. So if you have had that experience yourself, just know that you're not alone, but also know that that's not set in stone in how the Akashic Records look. It looks different for everyone. Everyone's experience of the Akashic Realm is different. It feels different. It might be like visually, of course, it's going to be different. And just like in any other style of journeying, which I teach more about in my shamanic Reiki classes, any style of journeying, you have to allow for the creative expression of what is unfolding for you. If you paint the picture for someone and that picture is not resonating with them, they're not going to connect. And so it makes absolute sense to me why there are those practitioners that can lead you and guide you to the records, and you have no experience, or you're not connecting or visualizing what they're explaining, versus the ability to just hold the space to journey and experience what that energy is like for yourself. So that's kind of the difference. So if you've thought in your mind and what you've researched about the Akashic Records that it looks like this giant library in the sky, that was kind of like the old school way of how people went about connecting into that energy. What I have found is it's actually a lot easier to just allow yourself to experience the energy, because I'm going to say most of you have probably experienced the Akashic Realm and you just don't know that that is another name for it. So the Akashic Realm is a little different than the Akashic Records. So let me just talk about that real quick too. So the Akashic Realm is that space where, oh no, I see comments. Hey Rena, sorry. Hi Lee. So the Akashic Realm is the space, like a space that you would journey to, in which the Akashic Records exists. The Akashic Records would be like a specific place within the Akashic Realm. Does that make sense? So it's two kind of different things, but also interrelated. So the Akashic Realm is also known as the quantum field. And the Akashic Realm is also known as the celestial realm, the upper world, right? So if you're familiar with any of those terms, you're already connecting into and plugging into the Akashic Realm. You're just plugging into it from a different name that is associated with the same energy. So let's just go ahead and demystify that, because I feel like that creates such a blockage for people, because there's all of these different names for things that come from different backgrounds and different practices. And when we can start to really recognize, oh, this is all connecting to the same thing, then it's like, oh, I do know what that is. I know what that feels like. So now let me tell you some little differences that I've noticed. And specifically doing Akashic work, what I have noticed, even connecting into the celestial realm or the upper world or any of those types of energetic names that we give to these spaces. For me, when I'm specifically like, I want to tune into the Akashic aspect of it, I'm plugging into that energetic space that also connects me to the planes of timeline and existence. That's the Akashic part of it, right? It's connecting into the timeline frequency. So we are able to come to this space where everything exists right now in this moment, right? We have a hard time being plugged into that energy when we are our waking selves here on earth in this physical body and our surroundings, right? But when we're in that energetic space, we're plugging into that energy where everything exists all at once. And that's the quantum field. Like that's all of it right there, right? So just remembering that you're holding that whole container of energy when you're plugging into that Akashic realm, that helps you to understand. So also in this space, we have access to guides. We have access to angels, to ascended masters, to divine source, and whatever name you give that. Like, we are connected to all of that energy when we're in that space. And that's the beauty of connecting into that energy too, because we are allowing for that connection to flow through us. So when I am guiding someone to connect into that space, I'm guiding an elevation of the frequency so that you can more easily feel the energy of that space. And that is what allows for the picture to kind of be painted. So we actively use our imagination whenever we are doing journey work. So this is the other thing that I see a lot of people get tripped up with. Well, how do I know that this is a journey thing that is coming through and I'm not just making it up? Well, your mind is still active when you're doing journey work. And you need your imagination to be creating the pictures for you, right? We grow and expand our imagination anytime we choose to actively try to visualize something. So if it's super easy for you to visualize something in your mind's eye, in your imagination, right? Your imagination is your mind's eye. Anytime you can practice visualizing something in your mind's eye, in your imagination, you are helping to facilitate the easefulness of being able to see things when you journey, because it's during that journeying that your imagination begins to paint the pictures for you as it's coming through. What helps you to know that it's different is that you're not actively telling your mind to show you something. Rather, it's a picture that is being revealed to you. So hopefully that helps some of you to understand the difference with that, because that's another thing that I hear a lot of people have questions around that. And of course, that's fueled by the self-doubt, right? For some people, it's really hard to trust that they are really connecting into this energy. And so all of the self-doubt starts coming in. You're like, oh, I'm just making this up, or this is because of this, or, I can't possibly do this. Like, all of that kind of comes into play and makes you question things. So knowing that your imagination is active in your role in journeying helps you to understand that, yes, the visualizations is all taking place in that space in your mind's eye. And it does require that part of your mind to be active. However, the thinking, rational part of your mind is set aside, and you're not actively painting the picture. You're not giving yourself a step-by-step, all right, I'm going to visualize a ruby red apple that has 3 dimples and a stem and leaves. Like, you're not actively giving yourself directions of what to see, but rather just allowing for it to unfold for you, where you begin to see maybe an outline of a shape, or maybe a color or a symbol or something along those lines. And all of that are always like kind of a valid way of knowing that it's something that's being revealed to you that is wanting to come through. All right, so now we've got that out of the way. So back to the Akashic Realm, right? So I came across a teacher that I've been working with for a couple of years, and did her Akashic Records practitioner training because I loved her style in the way that she would share the records. And because when she would share her opening, you know, connecting into the energy flow, she's the only other person that I've ever seen do it the same way as me. And that tripped me out because I was guided to do that. And it wasn't something taught to me. And I'm like, whoa, here's someone else that's doing the same thing that was given to me as like a guided message of doing, and someone else is doing that. So I reached out to her and I was like, where did you learn this? Because this was something that was downloaded to me in a meditation to do the energy like this. And she was like, me too. And, you know, we just had this conversation and it was amazing. And I was like, all right, she's the real deal. Like, she's also getting channeled messages and listening, and this is how she's presenting it. And oh, I love it. So, of course, after years of working with her, I was like, I want to do the practitioner training with you because I like the way that you do it. And so I did that. And even though I knew I already know, like, I'm connecting and connected into the Akashic Realm, it was the step-by-step process and learning her way because I really enjoyed the way that she did it. It opened up so much things for me, not just in my personal life, but also in my business. So the ways that this works, like, it's mind-boggling, but also when you recognize the container that you're holding, that space of the Akashic Realm, the quantum field where time doesn't exist and all things exist at once, like, you recognize the collapsing of timelines is really a real thing, and it's because you can tune into this energy. So that being said, not getting too far ahead, just allowing for the recognition that is a thing, like, that's possible. So the Akashic work now looks completely different from what I learned way back in the early 2000s, because, you know, it's no longer about painting the picture of a library in the sky. Most people don't connect to that. And most people that I've talked to that have tried, you know, Akashic Record stuff, they've tried it in that type of model and it didn't work for them. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. It didn't work for me either. But what if I was to tell you, like, anytime you're receiving messages from a guide, from an angel, or anything like that, you're working with the Akashic Realm, right? Then you're like, oh, okay, it doesn't seem so hard to connect. And so we need to break down those barriers of belief around your ability to connect too. So if you are already feeling like, oh, I'm not going to be able to connect, or I've never been able to connect before, then you're already setting yourself up to experience a disconnect. So it's also reframing and looking at your beliefs that you're holding around that. So, all right. The Akashic Records and tuning into that specifically. So that is a different space within the Akashic Realm. So let me explain to you what I feel when I do this work. So when I go through opening that central column of light, and most of you have been with me for a while, you know my process of doing this, tuning into that central column of light, connecting into the earth, connecting into the soul star, allowing that energy to flow, tuning into the heart space, and then allowing your energy to be elevated and sending that up to the Akashic Realm, traveling up out of the soul star energy, up into the Akashic Realm. To me, and the best way I can describe this is it's like champagne bubbles. And I can only put it to words in that way, because that's what it kind of shows me and what it feels like. is this golden energy that is bubbly and fizzy, and it's like, it's the elevation of the energy, and that's the best way I can describe it. It's like champagne bubbles, where you're just like, you know, all the little tinglies rising up as your energy is elevated. And it, to me, has the energy color of the golden light frequency, which is plugging into that energy of infinite possibility and potential, because we're in that quantum field. We're in that space where everything exists all at once. Anything that you want, you already have in that space. So it's this energy that reminds you of that. It's the energy that helps you to tune into the you that is open to receive that. So it also helps you to see in the ways that you might be closed off from receiving that. So the energy of the space, it begins to elevate your frequency. And so for a lot of people, they notice that feeling sensation first, where they feel like that energetic shift in themselves, where their frequency is really elevated and they're not used to maybe that level of energy. And that's typically the first thing people notice. Now, when I like to direct people to the Akashic Records, what I see and kind of what I guide, but I also leave it open, and it always depends on the person that I'm working with. And I also tune into the person's journey and can kind of see what they're seeing throughout their journey. Is I guide people to a golden pyramid. And so my reason for why it's a golden pyramid is that pyramid energy also helps in the shifting of the energetic frequency to ascend higher. But also it's being held in that golden light. So for some reason the person didn't connect in that walkthrough process of elevating their frequency, there's another layer of added, elevation to the frequency as they step through that golden pyramid, and that golden light begins to wash over them. And then inside that pyramid, there's also this golden light that beams down from the top that you get to stand in, so you feel that energy. And that is, if they didn't feel it earlier, usually by that point they're feeling that golden, bubbly, fizzy energy rising up. In that space, I offer up the assistance of a guide to come in to help with assisting you in the records. And so we see this records as, the imprint or the blueprints of everything on earth. Okay, so many notifications, I forgot to turn them all off. As we see this as like the imprint or blueprint of everything that's on earth. It holds all of the energetic imprints of all of the things, right? And that feels like a lot, because it really is. So when we connect into that space, it can either be revealed as a book magically appearing in your hands, which is totally fine and a totally valid way of doing it. And it might not be a book. It might be a scroll. It might be a piece of paper. It might not be anything but words coming through your head. Or it can be the guide that comes back and hands you a book, right? So there's all different kinds of ways that you can plug into that energy too to receive that message. And it doesn't necessarily have to look a single certain way. It's plenty of different ways that it can look. You might even see like a billboard sign appear with messages coming across, right? If you leave it wide open, and here's the really big thing, if you leave it wide open and drop the expectation of you expect it to show up in a certain way, shape, form, then you're opening the space to actually allow the messages to come through. So rather than clinging or holding on to, it has to look like a book. It has to look like a scroll. It has to be on a piece of paper, right? If you just let go of all of that and you just allow yourself to be in the space, to allow it to reveal itself in the way that it wants to reveal itself to you, that's when you begin to open up the magic of the space. Because now you're not blocking the way the messages are trying to come through to you. And so that's another aspect where I feel like people tend to get tripped up in the records. So for me, I often work with a guide in that space that will bring the book that I'm asking for, or sometimes the book just magically just appears and it's just handed to me from like a misty veil of golden champagne bubbles, right? And it's just like, here you go. And that's totally fine to me. I don't hold judgment around any way, shape, or form that it wants to come in. I just allow it to come in. And that helps to open that for you more. For myself, it has always been a book, but sometimes in that book, I might see the outside of it very clearly and can even sketch out exactly what it looks like. But the inside, I don't see as clearly, but instead, it's filtered through as messages. And that's the way that I receive messages, is often like seeing words in my mind's eye that I know I'm not placing there, but it's almost as if someone was reading to me in my mind. If you've experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. It's like someone typing up sentences in my head, and that's what I read and see. And that's the way that it is interpreted to me, because that's the easiest way for me to get messages, because that's the way I've always gotten messages. So it also uses your natural intuitive gifts in how you receive and interpret that energy. So you might find that that is the way that you interpret it too. It might be that you're hearing audible messages like it's coming in. Or it might be just a feeling or a sensation that you're having. It might be just that knowing, that inner knowing, right? And all of those are correct. There is no one way of accessing and interpreting that information. So this is where I think it gets really difficult for people, because, you know, especially when you're new to this, like you want to cling on to what to expect so much so that, you know, and it ends up blocking you from actually having the experience. So this is where it's just about being comfortable with who's guiding you and allowing yourself to be open and trusting what is ready to come through in the way that it wants to come through. So in that space of the Akashic Realm and in the Akashic Records, you are able to ask questions. And that's really the space of being able to ask the questions that are on your heart, ask the questions about things that you're having a difficult time with, or for guidance and direction. There's all kinds of different ways to ask questions, but I also always kind of say, you know, it's good to go in with an intent of what your questions are. Like, what is it geared to? Is it geared towards, you know, healing for yourself at this time? Is it geared towards your business and your business growth and what's your next steps? Is it geared towards a past lifetime? Are you curious about what you've gone through in past lives and how it's impacting you in this lifetime? Are you curious about the origin of your soul and want to learn more about where your soul originated and diving deeper into the starseed access? So there's all kinds of different questions that you can pose in this space to open up that dialogue and that stream of energy to start coming through. So energetically, what I'm told is that when we're in that energetic flow, it's less about the book. And it's really just, you know, the book is a tool for our human selves to feel like we're connected into something that makes a little bit more sense. But really, it's connecting into the energy. And when you're asking that question, it's that thread of energy that's connected to the energy that you're asking that begins to come through, that offers that energetic information to start being channeled. So that channeling looks different. It looks like, you know, the words in your mind, or the words that you're hearing, or the things that you're seeing, or the things that you're knowing, the things that are coming up in you. So that's the way that energy works, right? It always comes back to this energetic interpretation, which is why it's super, super important to learn about energy and how you interpret the energy, because it does play a role in so many other aspects of your life that you really don't even recognize until you're like, oh yeah, this makes so much more sense. So in that space of the Akashic Records, Just asking those questions and tuning into that timeline frequency that holds the answers that you are seeking helps for all of that to come through. And that to me is the work that really helps to support you in what you need to be doing here. So the greatest things that I've experienced has been, some of it has even been validation, right? So receiving a validation in the logo image I chose for my business, and it was embossed on my Akashic record book for my business, right? And it was just like instantly, as soon as I saw it, it was like that recognition that I'm on the right path and I'm being guided in the right ways and I'm making the right choices. And it was like, boom, okay, I feel so much more better and relieved now, right? But then it's also the information that channels through that is more of, in my experience, more of the divine feminine nature, which is more of the feeling, the sensing aspect of things that helps you come into alignment with what is really wanting to be expressed and move through you, which is a lot different than like a structured discipline type of business way of doing things, where you're writing goals and steps and this and that. It's more of, this is the energy that is wanting to be felt or wanting to come through or wanting to be held or nurtured or nourished or, you know, something along those lines, and feeling into that energy then all of a sudden opens up this cascade of just all of these ideas and things, and recognizing when you have those feelings, those sensations of that energy, and knowing like it's because it's connected to this path and you're on it and you're doing it, and yes, keep going. Like it's that kind of energetic feeling that is connected to it. Again, that's been my experience, so what you experience might be a little bit different, but I do feel like so far in what I've experienced with the people that I've done journeys for, they've all kind of had that same, where it's the emotional kind of energetic connection behind it that is helping them to kind of line up what energy they're wanting to call in or feel into or hold or allow to be more of in their life at that time, and the way that you work through that and interpret that energy. So it becomes part of the puzzle of, you know, what you're working through to create that and have more of that in your life. So there's lots of different ways that it works. Healing wise, it can be really great to help even just in the process of connecting, and not even anything specific in the records, because anytime you're working with that elevation of frequency, you are helping to heal yourself energetically. So even in the beginning processes that I walk you through, that y'all should know by now, because I've been teaching this for years, that grounding into the earth star, connecting into the soul star, and allowing those two energies to flow through the body. I'm like a broken record when I keep telling you guys, like, if there's a practice you're going to do every day, please make it that practice, because it naturally begins to balance and align your energy. And that's all you need to do. It really is that simple. You can absolutely do that on your own. You don't need someone else to do that for you. You can feel into your own energy body, and you can do that practice every day. And the more you do it, the easier it is for you to connect, the easier it is for you to feel more centered, more focused, more balanced, more aligned, and the easier it is for you to be channeling that information that is meant for you to channel, so that you know more about what is going on around you. So that's the staple, right? Just doing that alone begins the healing process. It helps to heal your energy body. It helps to clear your energy channel. It helps to open up and clear your auric field, because now you're filtering in this new energy with more intent and focus, and you're allowing yourself to be tuned into a higher vibrational frequency, which starts to purify and align your energy to your highest energy that you can connect to at that time. And in that practice, what happens? Well, in that practice alone, you'll find that all of a sudden you might have these things that start rising up, right? These reflections. And these reflections often look like a situation or a challenge, or perhaps even resurfacing a trauma where you're seeing it from a different perspective and a different way of seeing it. And it allows you to move through it, move past it, and heal it from a different perspective. So it allows for this self-reflection. And it is a form of shadow work, right? Because we're looking at something that is being held in our energy, that is part of us, that maybe we have been blind to, that we haven't seen because we didn't have anything that was reflecting it back to us. But now all of a sudden here comes this reflection, and it's like, oh, okay, that doesn't really feel like it's aligned with me after all, so I don't want to do that anymore, or I don't want to feel that way anymore, or I don't think this belief is aligned anymore. And so let me change that. Let me start the process of rewiring my brain around how I perceive that, and start making those internal shifts that I need to do to open up to that next layer of consciousness. And it's really that simple. It can absolutely be difficult too, but in the context of this work and the way that I am presenting it to you, it is more of these simpler ways of recognizing those energetic blocks that you're carrying so that they can be released and you can be more open. And truly, it's a practice that helps you find that liberation and freedom within your own energy, and I just cannot speak highly of it enough. I think it is super and super important, and I mean, I can't say it enough. It's a practice to be practiced every day. Then the add-on to that of raising the frequency even higher to the Akashic Realm, that just... it amplifies that healing energy. So even that alone, if you don't go into the records, you don't do anything else, you don't try to channel any information, but you just sit and connect into that energy, there is so much healing in that energy. And that by itself, I mean, that can be enough to do. So for this series that I'm doing for this inner circle, it is all about connecting into the Akashic field and receiving activations. And activations are like light code frequency activations, where it's a spark of something new that's being activated in you, into your field of awareness. And these activations aren't meant to be super jarring, but rather open and expansive. So it's coming back to practicing connecting into the energy and opening up to that energy, and then feeling these different activations as it lights up within your own energy system, and paying attention to what it is bringing forward for you, right? It's really powerful. I absolutely love doing this work, and I hope that you enjoy it. So let me know how this video was for you, if it helped you to understand the Akashic Realm and the Akashic Records a little bit more, and feeling into what we're going to be plugging into. Like I said, to me, the anytime I'm dealing with the Akashic anything, it is that golden energy. It's that golden ray frequency of infinite potential and possibility. It is that creator energy. It's the manifesting energy. It's, you know, whatever the million names out there you want to call it, that is the energy of what it is to me. And so that's the energy that we're going to be working with in this series, and I really, really hope you enjoy it. I know for me, the first time I started plugging into that golden ray energy, and then being able to also now connect it into this Akashic work, has been absolutely phenomenal. It has taken manifesting to the next level. it has absolutely opened up my mind even more to allow me to see things from even deeper perspectives, things that I wasn't aware of. So it really does help with that mirroring and the reflection for yourself, for your own growth and evolution, but then also opening up and activating those different energies in you that are wanting to be expressed this lifetime. And that to me is the work that I do. It is important to me to be here and to be of service, and this is a part of me being of service. It's being able to offer things like this. So hopefully you feel connected and called to join me in this journey. If not, you're more than welcome to bypass this series. It does not hurt my feelings at all. I fully understand not everything is for everyone, and that is okay. So thank you for joining and watching this video. Let me know if you still have questions about the Akashic Records or the Akashic Realm, and I'll try to do my best to answer them. And yeah, I look forward to getting started on this series. I hope you guys have a fabulous day. Bye.